Hello, everybody. So we just got done watching the sixth Democratic debate hosted by PBS NewsHour and Politico. And this one, I have to say, I think PBS was the most transparent about their propaganda after the show. During the post-debate show, they were just so obviously trying to prop up Amy Klobuchar, and yeah, it was really obvious what they were trying to do. But Drew?
Yeah, what I'll add to that is I think that them trying to prop up Amy Klobuchar is ultimately going to help progressive candidates such as Bernie Sanders, who is in second place nationally polling right now to Joe Biden somehow, some way. I don't get it. But yeah, I think them propping Klobuchar up is actually going to be a win for Bernie and his support.
Yeah, I haven't met a single Joe Biden supporter. Just going to be honest with you guys. I literally don't know how this guy is polling. But honestly, I don't really trust the polls. I think that if they brought all the young people in, I think Bernie would be surging, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, they did the thing they've been doing every other debate where they just call relentlessly on Amy Klobuchar and act as though she's one of the front runners when I think she's in what? She's in 6th out of 7.
I can look it up quickly, but I think she's pulling at 3%.
And then they just ignored Andrew Yang for the entire debate. He hardly talked at all. And then they kept calling on billionaire Tom Steyer. It was
Yeah. I believe at one point in the halfway through when they were recapping what had happened so far, they said Tom Steyer was actually doing well.
No, yeah, they said that about Amy Klobuchar too.
Klobuchar and Steyer were their winners at one point. And then maybe at the end, I'm not sure.
At the end, here's what they said. They said Amy Klobuchar obviously had a phenomenal night, and then they said Joe Biden had a very good performance, probably the best. They literally said that. They said he probably had the best performance tonight, which is literally the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah. Klobuchar did the same thing that she does in every single debate, which is distract from actual policy-based arguments and try to bring things back to, I don't know, I guess being a woman. That's the reason why it's her turn to be president, because she wants to be president. That's why it's her turn to be president. She failed to really bring up anything of substance on healthcare, anything of substance on poverty. It was really just a disappointing performance, but I mean, nothing unexpected. Don't get me wrong, I didn't expect her to say anything good or of value. It's just disappointing when PBS, when mainstream media, Politico, Newsweek, whoever it is trying to create the false narrative that Amy Klobuchar is actually accomplishing anything or garnering any support other than people who know her personally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, I think we spent enough time talking about Amy Klobuchar, to be honest with you. I'm really tired. I'm just tired of... We just watched her, and only her, for probably an hour out of that 3 hours.
Yeah.
Not actually, but probably pretty close to that. She talked for so much. But, yeah, we should just go through the candidates. How did billionaire Tom Steyer do?
Billionaire Tom Steyer, I mean, I appreciate that he's very adamant on climate change. However, it seems somewhat interesting and genuine. I don't know. He's a billionaire capitalist who made his fortune off of coal mines,
investing,
and being a hedge fund manager. And now, for some reason, mainstream media thinks that he is somebody we should be turning to or listening to when we talk about corruption, when we talk about the existence of billionaires, when we talk about income inequality. And it's pretty backwards and wrong, in my opinion.
This guy is just literally an oligarch. He's trying to buy his way into the White House. Why do you think he wants to buy his way into the White House? Do you really think that he thinks he's the most qualified or the best option? No, it's because he just wants to be president, and he thinks that because he's a billionaire, he's like, oh, I succeeded. I made all this money. I must be better. I must be worthy of leading you people because I made it and I knew how to make it better than you. When really, that's as far from the truth as it could possibly be. That should automatically disqualify you from running in the Democratic nomination if you're a billionaire.
And I believe his campaign is over 95% self-funded, so the idea that he's getting any, reasonable amount of donations from, a grassroots base is just wrong. He's just funneling his own money that he made from doing terrible things into his own campaign, making it seem like people support what he has to say.
Yeah, and he bought his way and lied his way into having a following that was big enough to put him on the debate stage. Because before he announced his candidacy for president, he was like the impeachment guy. Like he started like a impeachment campaign, like, oh my god, let's impeach Donald Trump, he's so corrupt, and he's like pretended like he cared about it a lot. And then fast forward, it was impeachment. There was one other thing I don't remember.
I know the impeachment thing, like how he created like a mailing list. So
Yeah.
like he doesn't actually have like a real mailing list of supporters. It's just people who signed his impeachment, whatever it was, petition. I don't know.
So he just doesn't even deserve to be on the stage
yeah,
in the first
pretty
place.
much.
Yeah, and then he created that impeachment campaign because he has billions of dollars, or I think he has like 1.5 billion, but because he has so much money, that's the only reason he was able to do it in the first place. So he effectively bought his way onto the debate stage.
Yeah, completely. Let's talk about Yang. Yes.
He got ignored like usual. It wasn't unexpected that they just ignored him and treated him like he wasn't there.
Yeah, at one point, I think hashtag Let Yang Speak was trending on Twitter during the debate, which is a common theme now in every debate. They don't give him the talking time he deserves, considering I believe he's polling in 5th place.
Yeah, no, he's like... actually, I think Bloomberg might be in 5th now, which is also disgusting because he's a billionaire as well. He has a net worth of like 52 billion. He was like the former mayor of New York, super corporate, like the most corporate Democrat you could, like, even to the right of people like Hillary Clinton, I think. Like, he would literally, stop and frisk was his huge thing, which is where you just, police officers can literally just stop you and just search your shit. So they just destroy the Constitution. Disregard the Constitution.
Stop and Frisk got exposed for being like extremely racist. Like they were like using Stop and Frisk on a majority of minority people compared to white people. So yeah, Michael Bloomberg is racist, incredibly rich, and has no right to be in the Democratic.
He's like Thomas Wayne.
Yeah,
it's literally what he is, basically. Like from Gotham City.
Yeah.
Wait, no, oh fuck. Yeah, I don't remember what I was gonna say. Anyways,
back to Yang though. Yang did amazing in this debate. He said all the right things. When questions were given to him, like sort of to like in a distracting way, like it was a bad question, it was an unimportant question to the actual presidential election at hand. He would spin it back on him and he would say, "Look, for example, who cares about impeachment? He's obviously not going to get removed from office. The Senate is never going to have a fair trial where they actually examine all of the facts at hand on if he should be impeached or not. So it really doesn't matter." And he brought things back to why did Trump get elected? Because he created the false promise of like, a vote for Trump is a vote for labor. Like he's going to bring money back to places where it hadn't been. And when he didn't come true on these promises, that's where a lot of his support wavered. And Yang is trying to make good on this by saying, who cares about impeachment? We should be worried about automation. We should be worried about all of these lost jobs, how to get them back, how to get wages up, how to get people to work who want to be at work but can't be. And it's kind of disgusting when every single debate, at least half the time, is spent talking about Donald Trump.
It's so ridiculous because
when that's like not important at all to actually getting somebody elected who's going to solve the problems that we face today.
Yeah, the Democrats as a party are so entitled. They just sit there and they think, "Oh well, we're not that guy, so obviously you're going to vote for us." It's like, how entitled are you? Like, do you think just because you're not the other option and you're not as bad as in your mind you think that guy is, so because of that you deserve everyone's vote?
And doing that is not going to help at all in winning over his supporters, which is what you need to do to
It's
beat
disgusting.
him in an election. It's really stupid. I hate it. Democrats are trying to do
I
their
remember
best Hillary Clinton impression with the idea that it's somehow going to beat Trump this time, even though it didn't last time. So the idea that like being the neoliberal corporatist is going to actually make any difference or change the results of what happened in 2016 is just ridiculous. And I hate the DNC.
Yeah, the Democrats should honestly be ashamed of themselves. Like Nancy Pelosi, that type of leadership, like the neoliberal kind that the establishment is desperately trying to continue to be the norm, just hasn't worked. You look at under Nancy Pelosi and Obama, people were so dissatisfied with what they had done that they voted for a reality star clown as opposed to essentially
somebody with zero political experience.
who had no idea what he was doing and was clearly just a fraud and a buffoon.
Who should we talk about next?
Yeah. But, so they voted for Donald Trump over him over Hillary Clinton because he appeared to be more of a outsider. So it's like, people hate you guys, and what you're doing isn't working. You need to wake up and actually try something new. Because they're just insane.
Yeah.
Anyways, who's next?
Joe Biden?
No, we should go by from low polling to high polling.
Okay, Mayor Pete is above Yang.
Yeah, Mayor Pete. Oh god, there's too much to say about this, but this was the most exciting thing of the night.
Yeah, Mayor Pete getting absolutely obliterated by Elizabeth Warren, put to shame, made him spill his water. He was trembling in fear. It was honestly like one of the funnier things I've seen, and it made me immensely happy seeing Mayor Pete Buttigieg trembling in his little tiny size 7 shoes.
It was amazing. It was so glorious. It was like porn. It was literally the most just amazing thing to see. Just, you can see just his fraudulence, like just how you know he doesn't actually mean anything he's saying. Yeah. He's just saying whatever it takes to get elected, and that the second he gets into office, he's just going to sell everybody out. You just saw all of that go away and just saw like a scared, like him just be like so scared, so uncomfortable, so just shamed. He was shaking. Like Drew said, he spilled his water. He did this and he was like, and water went everywhere. It was honestly, I was shaking too. The tension was so high.
My favorite part about this is like, this is the first time that the story about Mayor Pete's private crystal $900 bottle of wine fundraiser where no press were allowed, I don't think, and it was a minimum donation of $5,000 to enter. So basically just
$5,000 for a picture, right?
$5,000 for a picture. I don't know. Either way, you had to be incredibly wealthy to go to this fundraiser. It in no way showed his support for like his actual constituents. It in no way showed his support for working America, for people living paycheck to paycheck. It showed his solidarity with the ruling class, the 1%, the oligarchy, whatever you want to call it. It showed how willing he was to work with them in order to screw over the American people on a daily basis. And this is the first time I think a lot of his base is going to hear about it, because to me it seems like to be a Mayor Pete supporter, you have to only watch CNN or only MSNBC or only just
PBS,
some
propaganda broadcast station.
I think Pete Buttigieg is going to go down in the polls after this. I think he's going to have a lot of explaining to do. I think it's not going to be something he can really escape from, and it's basically just the death of his campaign.
I think it's Sorry, is that all?
Oh yeah, no.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I think this is going to be like the Tulsi Kamala moment where Kamala, like, I think honestly in the same thing is going to happen. Warren might even get a little bit of a boost maybe. But then I think Mayor Pete, actually she might get a lot, because a lot of her supporters might go to Mayor Pete because they shared the same coalition where it's like mostly white, college educated people. But I think what's going to happen is Warren might get a little bit of a bump, and then I think Mayor Pete is just going to face plant. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think he's going to pull a Kamala, and he's not going anywhere. He's going to plummet to probably 3% or something like that and then drop out. I think it's going to be embarrassing for him, and I think the donors are going to I think this is where they're going to keep trying to prop up Klobuchar because she's like the next option, or maybe even Bloomberg, honestly. But they're going to ultimately have to push Biden as hard as they can, and they're going to have to run Biden into the ground because he's all they have at this point. What, you think Bloomberg is going to win after stop and frisk? And you think, I don't know, Warren, I think maybe could have a little bit more of a chance, but I still don't think that it's likely. I think Biden is their best option, and I think it's just not going to work. I honestly think all of his support is just nothing. I think it's just it's not actually going to show up, and I think if all the young people come out, I think Bernie is actually in the best position to win, and the corporate media is never going to acknowledge it, and they're going to just try to push Biden on us as hard as they can while they smear Bernie.
Yep.
And prop up Klobuchar.
Yeah. Moving on to
Warren?
Yes. Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren actually had a pretty good performance, I would say, even though she was super wishy-washy on her support for Medicare for All. She never actually went in depth on it.
Yeah.
I don't even think she was questioned about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, can I just say one more thing about Mayor Pete?
Yes, please do, actually.
He flailed. He flailed so hard at the end. And he had absolutely no response to him being... Like, Bernie... Oh, yeah, here's the other thing that was amazing. After Warren exposed him, and then his response was literally... Yeah, well, you funneled money from your Senate campaign into the, and, like, you, like, took big money, too. So his response was literally, you did it, too. But it was, like, on a lesser scale. And then and then Bernard came in, and he was like, well, also, my good friend Joe over here has the most billionaire donors of 40 billionaire donors, and he's like, Pete's not that far behind. He has 39 billionaire donors. And he was like, so it's like a competition to see who has the most billionaires. But then he just set himself apart from all of them because, think about it. Everybody got hit. Mayor Pete got destroyed. Warren also got kind of embarrassed by Mayor Pete for
surprising. That's a tall task, getting destroyed by Mayor Pete, but she figured out how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. That happened, and then Bernie came in, destroyed Biden and Mayor Pete. So think about that. Out of that exchange, Bernie's like the last one standing, and the contrast has never been clearer, in my opinion, because it just paints exactly what it is. Mayor Pete and Biden are just the same. They're just two guys in suits that are just acting and pretending and doing a facade, and then they're really just all in it for the money.
Yeah.
And then you had Warren, who's like, she talks a good game, but like when you really dig in, she also has done the same thing in the past, and she's wishy-washy on Medicare for All, and you just know Bernie's the real deal, and he's the only one left. So I honestly think this was just an amazing exchange for Bernie.
Yeah, perfect. Moving on to Elizabeth Warren. She had a pretty good debate, all things considered. Destroyed Mayor Pete. That was awesome. My favorite moment of the debate by far. But yeah, I don't think she's gonna jump in the polls much. I don't think she's gonna even come close to touching where Bernie is polling.
Mm-hmm.
She did the worst thing for her, which was not compare. Well, I don't know. I guess in her mind, not comparing herself to Bernie and like differentiating was a good idea because she's obviously so much worse in basically every single area. But she really did nothing to change the dynamic of her campaign going forward. She didn't change anybody's mind about her. She didn't make anything clear that wasn't clear. I don't know. It was a good offensive performance, I guess, but she really didn't bolster herself whatsoever. Didn't make me want to vote for her. Give me any reason to raise my support for her.
I'm actually going to push back on that a little bit because Mayor Pete and Warren, you know how it's kind of been a fight for the like upper class educated white liberals, and Mayor Pete was grabbing a lot of that support because he had like 97% white support.
Embarrassing, yeah.
So embarrassing to think that you even have to think that you have a chance in the Democratic primary with zero black support and like what 1 or 2 or 3 within the Latino community. You're not going to win. You have no chance. So you should probably just drop out and stop embarrassing yourself. And then, so I think since he dropped out, that she could actually pick up a lot of that support because she delivered the punch, and and they were kind of switching between the two, like the upper class white liberals, because a lot of it went to Warren when Pete was lower down, and then he went up and she went down a little bit after the whole Medicare for All fiasco. So I think it actually could help her a little bit.
Yep. Anything more to say about Warren?
About Warren? Yeah, I honestly think that was her strongest moment when she called out Pete, but the rest of it, I felt like it would just kind of felt like Amy Klobuchar-esque every time she spoke. You know, like it was good, a lot of it, but it was more like, okay, I don't really care. Like, I know it's just like you're just kind of there, and it's like you're just Bernie light, so it's just kind of like meaningless. You know, it's like anything you're gonna say, Bernie's gonna say better. So it was just kind of like I just kind of honestly tuned her out a little bit more. And I would be like really paying attention when somebody like Yang or Bernie would speak. But honestly, strong moment. But I think for the rest of it, it was pretty standard for me at least. That was just my opinion, though.
Sick. Moving on to America's dad, Bernard Sanders, currently polling in second place behind Joe Biden somehow, some way. Don't know why. Don't ask me.
It's because little boomers.
He killed it. He did so well. He did everything that I have always wanted him to do in other debates. He actually attacked other candidates, said their names, said why they were wrong, bad, whatever it is. And I think he really, this debate performance is going to start distancing him from everybody below him and start to close the gap between him and Biden, just because every time they threw a terrible question at him, he would hammer home Medicare for all, it's going to be cheaper, no deductibles, no copays, classic Bernie lines. Talked about getting rid of student debt, talked about free college for all, talked about why we need justice reform. Just like the fundamental problems in the United States. My favorite thing was he really hammered home campaign finance reform, really exposed Biden, really exposed Buttigieg. And he did mention, or he did say, that he has the record for the most donations to any campaign ever at this point in an election. He did everything I have always wanted Bernie to do, and I think it's really going to help him out.
Yeah, it was just an overall great performance. I think even better than when he absolutely wiped the floor with John Delaney in the second debate. That was
ended his campaign immediately on the spot.
I mean,
it never really started, but killed it for good.
Yeah, it started back in 2017, and he has nothing to show for it. But
well, no, he put $30 million of his own money into it.
Yeah, he's just, oh my God, John Delaney is the worst. But yeah, Bernie had an amazing performance. It was, I honestly, lately I haven't been like, I've always wanted more after I see Bernie in a debate. I'm always like, oh, like, yeah, like he was clearly the best one out of all of them there, in my opinion at least. Yang has done well in every one too, but I agree with his policies the most, and I like him the most, and I think he's by far the strongest candidate to defeat Trump and to win the nomination at this point. But I hadn't really been like, it didn't have like the oomph that I wanted to, because he would always just talk about like his own policies and like how great they are, but he would never like he never really contrasted himself with Warren at all, really, except for when he would say like, I'm the only one who had voted against all of Trump's military budgets. That's like the only time he would subtly differentiate himself, but you have to follow politics to know that. So it's like, I feel like for like just a normal audience, people are going to be like, oh, really? But they're not, like, going to think about that, Mm-hmm. And then, every time, like, that Mayor Pete moment and the Biden moment, and it was just so brutal. I'm sorry. It was so brutal. He made Mayor Pete look like a scared, like, he was just, like, scared and, like, wanted to go home, and
he made Mayor Pete put his tail in between his legs.
Yeah, put his tail in between his legs and put his head down, and, like, he was, like, shaking, like, oh my God. It was like
your dad grabbing you by the ear and telling you that you're an embarrassment to your family. Because he's an embarrassment to everybody ever, and he should never speak in public again. Sorry, that's my opinion.
Every time he goes in public, if you guys see him, please chant Wall Street Pete, or boo or something, or say, like, drop out right now. I want this guy, like, this is how we need to start actually treating politicians that are selling us out and not doing their jobs. Just
don't give him any respect. He doesn't deserve any respect. He is actively trying to sell you out and make
sabotage your life is literally what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
So him and Joe Biden and pretty much everyone on that stage except for a few, everyone running for the Democratic primary is pretty much just a sellout except for a couple of them. But yeah, no, it was bad. Bernie obliterated him. It was almost as bad as back in 2016 when he would constantly expose Hillary. It was almost like that devastating. What's cool about, honestly, how having more people is, like, a moment like that, I feel like always packs more of a punch than when there's just two candidates, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, definitely, yeah. 'Cause I don't know, I think 7 is still too many to have on the debate stage.
Oh, yeah.
I like it around, like, 4 or 5. I wish they would split it between, like, the the leaders, like the top 4 or 5 people, and then the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
So then, I mean, you wouldn't have to. There would be more people at the debates, but it would actually be a reasonable amount of people on the stage. Good debate would occur. More time for everybody to speak. It would be a better system. But for what it was, yes, it was really funny watching Mayor Pete get destroyed in front of the rest of the people who remain.
Mm-hmm. And more about Bernie, he would always separate himself by saying, like, listen, all of these people are corrupt. I'm not. And if you want to talk about the whole electability thing, I have the most individual donations out of anybody in history. I built this huge movement. I'm way more I have built way more of a like diverse and broad group that may not even like show up in the polls, you know, necessarily. And that's why I'm like the best candidate to defeat Trump. And I think that's how he really, really separated himself from the rest of them.
Yeah. Moving on to the finale, or the person polling the highest. Melting Brain, Joseph Biden, Creepy Uncle Joe, Handsy Uncle Joe, Leg Hair, Corn Pop, Kids Jumping on My Lap. Make sure the record player is on. Make sure the kids hear words. Oatmeal for Brain Joe. I like that one too. Yeah, he sucks. He was the worst. Didn't do anything good the entire night. Did the same thing that he always does, where Obama does something good, he takes credit for it. Obama does something bad, he deflects, says that wasn't me. I was the vice president. No, come on, that was all Barack. But when Barack does something good, that was all me too. Like, we're there together. Yeah. Joe Biden was boring, not exciting,
Not coherent.
He. Lots of missteps with his words. I honestly, I worry about his health. I worry about how long he can sustain running a presidential campaign. It's very taxing on somebody, and he's obviously not mentally fit to be up there with everybody else. So it's kind of sad. I don't know who's forcing him to do this at this point. He should be in a wheelchair watching reruns.
He should be chilling.
Yeah, I don't know. Shouldn't be out and about, shouldn't be on a debate stage trying to defend something. He is trying to defend stuff that he doesn't even know about.
Yeah, he has no idea. He's just saying whatever his donors tell him to say. He's just using insurance industry talking points.
Yeah.
Is all he's doing. And then he just takes fossil fuel money and actively supports fracking. It's like, we see right through you, Joe. Just go retire and go to a retirement home. Like, he's actually shouldn't be running for president. But his ego is just so huge that he has to, I guess. But yeah, my take on Joe Biden, it was like Humanist Report said in one of his videos after the last debate, he said, it looks like Joe Biden's in physical pain every time he's talking. Like, he looks like he's like trying so hard and like concentrating so hard and trying to hide that how much he's struggling. But then he also just embarrasses himself at every opportunity he gets. Like, he'll just start talking and then just like halfway through a sentence or a phrase or something, he'll like just start saying something else with like no transition at all. So he'll be like,
here's the deal.
So the fact of the matter is, look, he uses a lot of filler words. Like, the fact of the matter is, here, look. And then he always says, look at my record, even when his record is horrible in a lot of areas. He just says, look at my record. And then it's like, we did. Like, your record is horrible. And then I don't know. You had Bernie bringing up the Iraq War.
Yeah, that's my favorite
billionaire donors. Yeah.
Every time Bernie brings up the Iraq War and says, Joe Biden, you voted for the Iraq War. This is bad. Why did you do this? It was so obvious that this was a mistake. Joe Biden just sort of laughs and just scoffs at it. Just, ha. So funny. And then just doesn't ever respond, doesn't ever try to rationalize it, doesn't ever try to explain himself, say why it was even the right decision, because it's so funny that Bernie thinks that it was the wrong decision. I don't know. He's a joke. Yeah. He's a puppet. Don't vote for him, please, for the love of God.
For the love of God, do not support Joe Biden. No, but you know what I think about Washington, D.C. is I feel like everybody there is just like, oh, Bernie, like that weird kid over there, Bernie, like nobody like they legitimately like laugh at and like bully him, essentially, is what I legitimately think. I think all the smears and everything is kind of like a form of bullying towards Bernie, and they're also terrified of him because they see the huge movement of people he's moving. But like, so when Joe Biden So when he brings up the Iraq War, Joe Biden's like, yeah, so like everybody voted for that, bro. Like, come on. And like Bernie's just like, you voted for it, and then the viewers at home are all like, oh shit, like that's really bad because that is indefensible, you know?
Yeah. Bernie Sanders did get it, like, not exposed, but he got pressed for voting for the war in Afghanistan, and he handled it the best way possible. He said, look, that was a mistake. I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. And that's like, if you actually do believe that the Iraq war was a mistake, then that's what you should say, Joe. You should say, look, I'm sorry. That was a mistake. I was misinformed. I should not have voted for the Iraq war. But nope, he just laughs at it just like he does in every single other debate. It's honestly embarrassing. I think he should be put in a hospital.
He should really go to a retirement home. But yeah, it is just embarrassing every time they bring up something in Joe Biden's past because it's so indefensible and so like there's just nothing to say, that the responses he always says are just such nonsense and make absolutely no sense, and he like says them as if it's like, oh yeah, well I did this. Like in the first, I think it was either the first or the second debate, they said Bernie called him out for the Iraq war vote, and he was like, Barack turned to me when we were in office and said, get our troops out. So it's like, you're bragging about taking troops out when you wanted them to be there in the first place. Like, do you realize how ridiculous that sounds, Joe? Because he was one of the people that was the Iraq war cheerleaders. Like, he was trying to get us like aggressively into Iraq.
PBS, biggest loser yet again. Whoever hosts the Democratic debate is going to be the worst no matter what. Like, you just cannot bank on there being fair questions, reasonable questions, questions that matter, questions that have weight to them. You know that over half of them are going to be meaningless, are going to be smear questions, are going to be completely useless. And what do you know? PBS yet again disappointed everybody by just asking terrible questions, completely unreasonable, time wasters. Like, this is the debate where we're supposed to be differentiating between who we want to run the country, to be responsible for the U.S. military. Like, these are just like, this is the most important thing that we do in our country. And when you spend probably like 10 minutes talking about like, who would you want an apology from? Who would you say sorry to? Who would you give a gift? Like, that's honestly just like spitting
Insulting.
in the faces of the people who want to make an educated decision on who they're voting for. So yeah, PBS was the biggest loser of tonight's debate.
Yeah, it is honestly like, it's offensive how horrible these people are at their jobs. And like, it's really just so insulting that they let these people, that the DNC lets these people run the debate, moderate the debates. They should do something way different with these debates. They can't have the corporate media moderate them. They should have independent media sources, and we should know what people's positions are up front. We should know the bias when there is a bias, so they're not just trying to plant an idea in our heads. Because you can always tell that every question that the corporate media asks, it's either like an insurance company talking point or something that like deflects from the actual issue, because solving all these issues would mean essentially taking money away from the corporate media, because they're the companies that in the industries that advertise on the corporate media are essentially writing the paychecks of everyone that works there. So they're like, oh, we don't actually want these people to like go away, like the insurance companies or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, biggest loser of the night.
Easily PBS. Fuck you, PBS. I hate you. Please never moderate a debate again.
Yeah.